In a D-Day remembrance speech in France, Defense Chief Pete Hegseth called migrants Nazis. Pete Hegseth called migrants Nazis? Wait, is Pete Hegseth a migrant? Vice President J.D. Vance is calling on Great Britain to ban immigrants from India, as well as their children, despite his wife being the daughter of Indian immigrants. I'm sorry, because his wife is the daughter of Indian immigrants. Vance's wife is the beneficiary of birthright citizenship, which Vance calls the stupidest foreign policy in American history. Stop putting the rest of us in the middle of your failing marriage and divorce her already. In a narrow 24 to 2012 vote, the House, late Tuesday, passed a bill funding ICE and Border Patrol until 2029. There has been a partial shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security since February after Democrats held up passage of an appropriations bill in order to protest the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy in Minneapolis, as well as just the horrendous crimes ICE has been committing since Trump returned to office. Democrats were demanding use of judicial, not administrative warrants. They were demanding that ICE agents take off their masks and wear body cams. None of that is in the new bill, passed essentially by one vote. So ICE and Border Patrol get about $70 billion through 2029, unless the Democrats win the House or the Senate in the midterms, and then we can claw all this back. Former Border Commander Greg Bovino, who ran ICE operations in Los Angeles, Chicago, and Minnesota, by telling agents it's perfectly okay to grab people off the streets if they look or sound like they're Hispanic. Well, Bovino yesterday said we need to deport 100 million people. Bovino said 100 million people don't belong in this country. I can think of one person who doesn't belong here. Bovino is also exploring a possible run for president, and a website has been set up with this slogan, "Men fight back." Why do I think Greg Bovino's penis is almost as short as he is? That is the number, 100 million. I've told you this. They've been talking about 100 million. Out of 360 million people in this country, our White House believes 100 million people are the enemy within. The New York Knicks had won 13 games in a row. It was a 13-game playoff winning streak before losing Game 3 of the 2026 NBA Finals on Monday night because Donald Trump showed up to root them on. The Spurs defeated the Knicks 115 to 111, or as Donald Trump called that, the Knicks' greatest victory in the history of basketball. Trump was photographed at the game with his eyes shut, but the White House insisted he wasn't napping. He was just taking a 20-minute blink. Joining him for the game were Trump's peace envoys, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. Kushner and Witkoff said they had a great time, adding it was nice to see someone else losing for a change. According to the Mirror, Great Britain's Mirror, we are more than 100 days into the war with Iran, and Trump has said a peace deal is imminent 38 times. In the past 4 weeks, he's claimed a peace deal is imminent 38 times. This is the mop-up. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you for joining me. Please hit the like button so I remain in your feed. Hit the notification bell. Receive all notifications for this show. As you know, I'm being throttled back, as are most of the people who do this type of show, so help me out. The U.S. economy created 172,000 new jobs in May. The New York Times reports, however, wages cannot keep up with inflation, which is now the highest in 4 years. Putting Americans to work was disappointing news for Wall Street, the NASDAQ plunging more than 4% after the job numbers came out because investor class fears Americans working. They fear that working Americans bring the economy to a full boil, which investors believe sparks even more inflation. Kevin Warsh, the new Fed chair, was picked by Trump by promising not to do what he now may be forced to, and that is bring inflation down by raising interest rates. Trump is demanding low interest rates. Low, that means banks charge less to lend money. When the interest rates are low, it means they charge less. And Trump wants low interest rates. In 2024, you might remember, Trump was found civilly liable in a New York City courtroom for inflating his net worth in order to secure lower interest rates when he refinanced his debt. If you're the king of debt like Trump, higher interest rates cost you money. The inflation we're witnessing isn't caused by too many Americans working or government spending. It's Trump's tariffs that are causing the inflation, and the price of energy, fertilizer, or aluminum, all jumping anywhere between 30 to 50% because the Strait of Hormuz remains sealed shut. And it's caused by greed. Once you convince consumers that inflation is a real thing, corporations are free to raise prices with impunity. Meanwhile, corporations claiming they're victims of inflation, well, they're booking near record profits because they've got us all convinced they're paying more for raw materials. The stock market gave up some of its gains for the year on Friday and also on Tuesday. Since Trump began bombing Iran on February 28th, the NASDAQ has been up around 14 to 15%. Friday, it sunk because of fears of inflation, but Tuesday, it sunk because of fear of a massive AI bubble. Too much money being poured into data centers without any guarantee there will be enough customers on the other side. The NASDAQ is tech heavy. And right now, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars are being thrown at artificial intelligence, which is the holy grail for investors because it will, they believe, eventually drive down labor costs by putting everyone out of work. No pesky workers creating inflation by heating up the economy with all their spending. Now, eventually Wall Street will realize without employees, nobody buys anything. 2/3 of the American economy is consumer spending. The crap we buy, even though we'd be better off without any of it. And I do mean any of it. Look, I'm no saint, but, every now and then I'll go through my credit card bill and practically everything I buy, I didn't need. And the stuff I thought I needed, I would have been much happier without. So if 2/3 of the U.S. economy is you and me buying crap we don't need, it's still considered treason to tell people stop shopping. The AI bubble didn't burst today, but some air was let out because nobody in Silicon Valley has quite yet figured out a way for robots to sell to other robots. AI has to eliminate the consumer or the need for a consumer. They just can't eliminate the worker. They also have to figure out a way to eliminate the consumer in order for this AI bubble to stay big, right? Robots need to start selling to other robots. Now, it is, believe it or not, beginning to happen where they've kind of figured out how to get rid of the consumer and just have AI robots selling to other robots. Now, Google, for example, is all in on AI. They just agreed to start paying Elon Musk's AI company about $1 billion a month for the computer power that Google needs to feed its burgeoning artificial intelligence business. So that is, they call it business to business as opposed to consumer spending, but in a way, it's robot to robot spending. I'll explain in a second. Google is paying AI, SpaceX, Google is paying SpaceX $1 billion a month. It's kind of like robots buying from other robots. Microsoft is putting billions into AI, purchasing chips from NVIDIA, the chip maker, to keep its data centers humming. They call it business to business spending, but it is the beginning of robot to robot spending. It's money trading hands. It's the economy and the stock market growing because robots are buying from other robots. The humans think they're making these purchases. They're not. These spreadsheets are read by AI right now, which is telling Microsoft, Apple, buy more computing power. So what we have right now is a stock market fueled not so much by consumer spending, but robot companies buying from other robot companies on advice from the robots. That's where this thing is heading until we put the brakes on it. They're going to cut out the worker and eliminate the consumer. Robots will perform both the labor and the shopping. How do I know this is already happening? Well, take a look at the high-speed volume we see on Wall Street. That is essentially computers buying and selling from other computers. There is speed trading on Wall Street, high volume speed trading, algorithmic. That's computer to computer trading of stocks and bonds. And it's only a matter of time before it's computer to computer, AI to AI, robot to robot purchasing power. You and I won't have any money because there won't be any jobs left. This is where we're going, unless we do something about it. Now, the job of a stock or bond analyst has always been fraud. I mean, they should get rid of stock and bond analysts. Nobody can analyze a stock or a corporate or government bond because nobody can analyze the future. Nobody can predict the financial health of a company or a government entity because it's all inside privileged information. What we have right now are white-collar workers going into office buildings pretending they have actual jobs where, they're analyzing companies and bonds. It's impossible to tell us where a stock or a bond will be in 6 months. It's fraud is what it is. It's fake work, and artificial intelligence can do that fake work right now faster and more fraudulently than a human. So we're going to start saying bond analysts, stock analysts having to work for a living, but they can't do anything other than fraud. It's going to be tough for them. it's good and bad, right? I don't know how to read a spreadsheet. I don't want to read a corporate annual report. You don't need to know how to do it anymore. You don't need to get an MBA. You can supposedly feed it into AI and ask it questions, and AI will tell you everything you need to know in seconds about a corporation's annual report. And it's going to put practically, well, here, Anthropic is one of the big players in artificial intelligence. They just had a big release today. Even though Anthropic is warning about its product, it released a new one, an even more powerful one, while at the same time saying, stop, it's dangerous. They have a CEO named Dario Amodei, and he warned in the next 5 years, artificial intelligence will erase 50% of white-collar jobs. That's in the next 5 years. We will be forced to reevaluate what it means for Americans to work, earn money, or find purpose. One thing foreigners are struck by is Americans define themselves by their job. In America, you don't understand who a person is. You can't pigeonhole them until they tell you how they make money. Maybe on the East Coast. But I've been told that by foreigners who say they're just amazed by the number of Americans, not everybody, but the number of Americans who define themselves by their job. Well, CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, says 50% of white-collar jobs ain't coming back. And that's his business model. He's the CEO of Anthropic. His business model is put an end to the type of work we're educating children and young adults eventually to perform. STEM is all about preparing children for the marketplace. Well, AI is obviating the need for STEM. Meanwhile, Anthropic's co-founder last Friday issued a warning along with Anthropic's chief researcher that it's time to declare a moratorium on what we're feeding these AI monsters, these data centers. They say we're almost at the tipping point where AI can teach itself without any human supervision, without humans even understanding what AI has taught itself. This is happening. And I know, what amazes me is I'm told when I talk about AI, people get bored instead of outraged. You shouldn't be bored by this. You should be trying to stop it. As I said, Anthropic unveiled its new large learning model today. Bradley Olson and Sam Schechner wrote in the Wall Street Journal that some are skeptical of Anthropic's warnings. They're accusing Anthropic of scaring people as a marketing ploy to convince consumers of just how powerful their product is. Well, it's called recursive self-improvement. Recursive self-improvement. That's the tipping point. And what is recursive self-improvement? It is a fancy word or fancy way of saying the robots are about to destroy more than our jobs. They're going to kill us all. They are going to kill us all unless you stop being bored by all this and you vote for Democrats in November and we rein this in, because the Republicans aren't going to stop it. Recursive self-improvement. I don't pretend to know how AI works because we're at a point where nobody understands how AI works, including AI. AI, artificial intelligence, is what they call a large language model, or an LLM. You'll hear people talking about LLMs. That's a large language model, another way of saying artificial intelligence. And a large language model has an insatiable thirst for three things: knowledge, power, and water. That's what these data centers are. That's what they are. The chips are fed the entirety of human knowledge. That's what an AI data center is. They're fed the entirety of human knowledge. To chow that information down, these data centers also need drinking water, or they choke. They eat gigawatts of power and then are forced to drink massive amounts of water to cool themselves down. It's why Musk is planning to launch, I'm not making this up. This is public record. Musk is planning to launch 1 million data centers into low Earth orbit. More on that in a second. It's called LEO. 1 million data centers in low Earth orbit. It's happening. The tipping point is fast approaching. We are at a point now where humans are no longer needed to feed these large language models because of what they call recursive self-improvement. Recursive means a large language model can create tiny loops of self-referential skills and knowledge, and these loops go at the speed of, light? And each loop, the large language model teaches itself something new. Imagine smashing an atom with a never-ending chain reaction. That's what we're talking about. Now, in nuclear physics, you eventually run out of fissile material and the chain reaction stops. But as long as a large language model is fed power and water, there is no limit to what it can teach itself or discover. We are on the cusp of unlimited knowledge growing exponentially minute by minute until what? Until what? Until something knows too much. Not everything, just way too much. And nobody knows what that is. All we know is you're not supposed to know it. That's what we know. It's why Pope Leo is worried about AI. There's only so much we're allowed to know. Otherwise, religion becomes hollow and meaningless. The Pope puts out encyclicals. They are big. An encyclical defines a papacy. Pope Leo's first encyclical was presented on May 25th. This was, 2 weeks ago. And he used his first encyclical to call for the disarming of AI. He warned of its ability to make decisions autonomously. He said it undermines human dignity. He also said our increasing dependence on AI erodes humanity's capacity for critical thinking. When you become too reliant on machines, we lose whatever critical thinking we Americans have left. So, Anthropic and its competitor OpenAI are about to go public, and each company is expected to fetch, or at least have a market valuation in the neighborhood of $1 trillion each. Sam Altman is the founder of OpenAI, and Altman right now believes, and he's calling for the government, the United States government, to take a stake in all artificial intelligence companies. He essentially wants Trump to create a sovereign wealth fund similar to what Saudi Arabia or Dubai and the UAE have, where we use tax dollars and invest in AI. I guess he feels that's the only way we can regulate it. Well, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump don't agree on much, but they agree on a lot of things. It's why so many Bernie voters ended up going with Trump. And they are both, for different reasons, proponents of some government ownership of industry. Bernie, because he's a socialist, and Trump, because he's a fascist. Although with fascism, it's corporations that own government, at least temporarily. Bernie has been calling for the United States government to take a financial stake, to own stock in our country's largest AI corporations, in order to rein in not just this recursive self-improvement, but the data centers, which require massive gigawatts of power, as well as massive amounts of water to cool them down. Water we don't have. Trump, on Friday, said he wants the government to own a stake in all the AI companies, but only because he thinks there's money to be made. This is something Trump has called for before he came back to the Oval Office. He was going to buy Spirit Airlines earlier this year. He's not investing. He doesn't want the government to invest in AI to control it. He wants to use taxpayer dollars to invest in and reap rewards from large AI corporations. That is how a sovereign wealth fund works. Critics warn sovereign wealth funds open the door to cronyism and solidifying the power of presidents who have authoritarian impulses. You see sovereign wealth funds in kingdoms, right? And if someone like Trump gains control of a sovereign wealth fund, the same way Trump now controls the Department of Justice and his Treasury Department by appointing spineless flunkies to head those agencies and departments. Well, if he puts another spineless flunky in to run our sovereign wealth fund, there's no limit to what the Trump family will be able to steal. Jared Kushner's private equity fund, Affinity, has about $6 billion in assets. Hasn't really earned any money, but he's collecting investments from sovereign wealth funds run by Persian Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Since Donald Trump returned to office, the federal government now owns a 10% stake in chip manufacturer Intel. And Intel stock, since our government took a 10% stake in Intel, I think it's quadrupled in price. So was it a good investment? Yeah, I guess so. Taxpayer money goes into Intel. You know, we bail out the auto companies all the time. Instead of bailing out a bank or an auto company, we should own a piece of the company. So Trump is introducing an interesting type of socialism that under different leadership could be useful. And he also took a 25% stake in profits from chipmaker NVIDIA's sales to China. NVIDIA is the big chip maker. You can't have AI without NVIDIA. Some people thought, okay, you can't allow NVIDIA to sell to China because we're competing with China. Trump said, you know what, sell to China, but whatever you make in profits, America gets 25%. If it were another president doing this, I would think it was a good idea. But because it's Trump, you know it's not to benefit us. As I said, and will keep reminding you, even though everybody's bored by AI data centers consume massive amounts of energy and water, and they're incredibly noisy. You do not want to live next to a data center, but this is where the economy is going. Meta, Facebook, fired thousands of employees, but now they're training people to build data centers, which are kind of like building for-profit prisons. Yes, there's work in the construction, but once they're built, they provide very bad jobs, low-paying, dismal jobs that suck energy and water out of the community. So nobody wants a data center in their backyard. Rural parts of America were seen as the best place to build these centers because they're supposedly out of earshot of people trying to sleep. You can't see them. It's not working. Farmers and even suburbanites are now complaining that they're living too close to these data centers. In last Tuesday's elections in California, citizens of Monterey Park, California, it's on the outskirts of Los Angeles, they voted overwhelmingly for a permanent data center ban in their city. This is the first community to permanently ban data centers. The measure passed with 86% of the vote after Monterey Park citizens learned that just that one data center would consume 3 times the energy that Monterey Park is already relying on. Also, water. You need massive amounts of water to cool these data centers. In Southern California, water is a precious commodity. Evan Halper of the Washington Post, writing that Monterey Park is one of many towns across America telling artificial intelligence companies, you're not welcome here. Data centers are being built by Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Oracle, you name it, they're building it. And they write in the Evan Halper from the Washington Post writes that so far, 67 other cities in the United States have voted to ban data centers for at least a year to 18 months. But Monterey Park last Tuesday was the first to ban them permanently. Halper over the Washington Post writes there is now a United States data center moratorium tracker that monitors every city that is saying no to big data. Say no to big data. This is the country they envision. Data centers and for-profit prisons. That's, this is okay. Well, this brings me back to Elon Musk's endgame, his endgame for us. He is about to become the world's first trillionaire. It might happen this week, maybe next. SpaceX, his rocket company, is about to become a publicly traded stock. I think he owns 40% of SpaceX. And why is SpaceX so valuable? I'm about to tell you something that some of you might know, and those of you who don't know it, you're going to put your fist through a wall. You're going to get so angry. And I cannot stress this enough. I've been told nobody wants to hear about AI. I know. And nobody wants to hear about Trump because there's Trump fatigue. It is this fatigue and boredom that allows them to get everything they want. So, SpaceX is valuable. Why? Because the current economic model for data centers is unsustainable. SpaceX is not about exploration. It's about data, artificial intelligence. Musk is going to put these data centers, all of them, in low Earth orbit, or as they call it, LEO. More on that in a second. I kind of touched on it earlier. I'm going to get to 1 million satellites he's planning to launch. He just filed in January with the FCC to launch 1 million data centers into low Earth orbit. Buy a helmet. These things, remember Skylab? Some of you are old enough to remember Skylab falling out of the sky. Get a helmet. 1 million data centers? You don't think they're going to come raining down on us? Okay, let me explain to you how pernicious Elon Musk is. Again, this isn't about space exploration. It's about data, okay? Elon Musk is going all in on AI. Not electric cars, not space exploration, AI. AI. Now, Musk has two big companies. He's got others, like Neuralink, which is literally brain surgery, and SpaceX, which is rocket science. So when they screw up at SpaceX, they go, it's not brain surgery. When they screw up at Neuralink, they say, hey, it's not rocket science. Anyway, but his two big money makers are Tesla and SpaceX. Okay? Tesla is where he made his first fortune. And SpaceX is how he's going to mint his next fortune. And both companies are not what they purport to be. Tesla is no longer a car company. Yes, the bulk of its revenue comes from cars, but its future is in humanoids, robots. It starts with self-driving Teslas running on AI, but Tesla, in only a few years, will be in the business of manufacturing workers. And by that I mean humanoids. That's where the money is. And Musk is making no secret of this. It's public information, but we're all too bored and preoccupied to read about it. It's also no secret that SpaceX isn't about exploration or boldly going where no man has gone before. It's not about colonizing the moon or Mars, the moon or Mars. Yes, eventually living in deep space will be an accidental byproduct of SpaceX's core mission, which is delivering massive amounts of low-cost data that fuels artificial intelligence. Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX are in the AI business. Again, Tesla still makes cars, and it was doing fantastically when Joe Biden was president because Joe Biden incentivized consumers to purchase electric vehicles. During the Biden administration, thanks to Biden's Inflation Reduction Act and the stimulus bill, Tesla had 1 year with revenue growth of 70%. I think that was Biden's first year after the stimulus package. And then it grew 50% in revenue after the Inflation Reduction Act was passed. Biden juiced sales for Tesla. But Trump ended up getting elected. And he immediately, in one big beautiful bill, got rid of Joe Biden's $7,500 tax credit for anyone purchasing electric vehicles like Musk. That was last year. And last year, during the first year of Trump's return to the Oval Office, Tesla's revenue plummeted and began losing money. It went 3% down. It was making at a 3% drop in revenue, despite knowing Trump would kill the market for electric vehicles. Musk invested nearly $300 million in Trump's 24 campaign. He appeared to be financing his own ruin. And because I wasn't following this closely enough, that's what I thought. And now I realize, no, he wasn't. Because Musk knows the future for Tesla isn't cars. The future for SpaceX isn't exploration. The future is robots, AI, and eliminating labor costs by eliminating workers entirely. That's what he knew when he gave Trump close to $300 million to get elected in 2024. He knew Trump was going to get rid of the tax incentive for you and me to buy electric cars. Tesla doesn't care about electric cars. You're looking at the Tesla robot. Have you seen it? That's the future. The future is replicating high-speed Wall Street trades, where computers sell and buy to and from each other by turning our economy into robots at lightning speed, buying and selling from and to each other. Tesla's profits, such as they are right now, are being poured not into cars, they're being poured into robotics. Yes, self-driving cars, but mostly humanoids. Walk into a Tesla showroom. You will be greeted by this, a humanoid. That's who greets you inside a Tesla showroom. If you're a man with a midlife crisis, you're pretty soon, instead of a sports car, you're going to be eyeing a robotic sex doll. Yes. So that's where this is going. That is the plan. Musk, a product of South Africa apartheid, is returning us, or at least our economy, to its roots. And by roots, I mean Roots, the television series, slavery, free labor. Slavery with no music, no soul music, because these robotic workers have no soul, just like Elon Musk. This is where it's going, and Musk is pretty open about this. In about 2 years, you will be able to walk into a Tesla showroom and buy a humanoid, a slave, to clean your house, do your taxes, have a catch with your kid, shtup your wife, and cook you dinner. You think Elon Musk cares about the Tesla? So when money is concentrated in so few hands, as it is right now, people like Elon Musk don't see the future so much as they create it. But he's not a visionary. He's just a wealthy bully. John D. Rockefeller wasn't a visionary. Bill Gates wasn't a visionary. They had enough money to create the future. They weren't seeing the future, they created it. The people fueling this AI bubble see no place for humans, let alone democracy or government as we know it. This is complete and utter contempt for humanity on a scale never before seen. The people financing Silicon Valley, Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, Ben Horowitz, Alex Karp, Curtis Yarvin, and at one time, J.D. Vance, they don't believe in democracy because they don't believe in people. They see the world growing far too complicated for ordinary or even extraordinary individuals to have any say in where society should be heading. They are part of what they privately call the Dark Enlightenment. People like Peter Thiel, who now is moving where to Venezuela. First, he was going to move to New Zealand. This turd, Mark Andreessen, his partner, Ben Horowitz, is the son of David Horowitz, who passed away, one of the most horrible conservatives in America. David Horowitz, his son, Ben Horowitz, runs Andreessen Horowitz. They're the big Silicon Valley angel investors. Andreessen invented Netscape. He invented one of the first internet browsers. And this turd, Curtis Yarvin, who is an investor but also a philosopher, who is pushing fascism. There is now intellectual heft and books being written celebrating fascism, dictatorships. It's the Dark Enlightenment. This is where it's heading. They believe in some kind of totalitarian technocratic regime where you have at the top a dictator. Right below the dictator is an aristocracy of technocrats who serve as feudal lords ruling over a peasant population for which there is absolutely no need. That's Curtis Yarvin. You should read him. Read what Curtis Yarvin has to say. He's been invited to Harvard to debate about why we need to eliminate democracy. He's influenced J.D. Vance. So it's the Dark Enlightenment. Our founding fathers and the nation they created were products of the Enlightenment, right? That's a belief that government only gains legitimacy through the assent of the governed. So everything we have today, from Congress, the UN, the EU, it all flows from the age of enlightenment, which emphasized a bottom-up style of self-rule. They didn't quite achieve it, but that's the dream and the hope and the promise. The Dark Enlightenment, however, these are the people who are pushing it. Peter Thiel, Curtis Yarvin, Alex Karp, Ben Horowitz, Mark Andreessen. They want a reactionary return to what came before capitalism. They want to bring back a new type of feudalism, but with even more contempt for the serfs, because now they don't need the serfs. They got robots. These monsters don't believe all men are created equal. Not only that, but they are slowly and then quickly coming around to the belief that humanity has outlived its purpose and it's time for the singularity. Yes, the singularity, where our DNA becomes one with the machine. Do they really believe this? Yes. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They are fatalists, convinced nothing can be done about climate change other than embracing our own extinction. So a new life form can emerge, one that combines artificial intelligence with the essence of what makes something human, our DNA. Their future is blobs of cytoplasmic thought disguised as philosopher kings waited upon by armies of subservient machines. No love, no children, no passion, just profits. And you cannot dissuade them of this eventuality. They believe it's all predestined. They believe evolution dictates that humanity must become the agent of its own extinction. They don't see a planet that can sustain carbon-based life forms as we know them. That is the Dark Enlightenment, the opposite of everything our founding fathers treasured. And you know who is one of the OGs, original gangsters of the Dark Enlightenment? Elon Musk's grandfather. He was a Canadian who moved to South Africa. Why? Because he read about apartheid and he thought, that's where I want to live. And he moved his family to South Africa for the apartheid and wrote columns for Canadian newspapers singing the praises of apartheid. Earlier, during World War II, Elon Musk's same grandfather was forbidden from entering the United States because of his sympathies, let's say, with somebody in Germany trying to forge a master race. Elon Musk's grandfather was one of the first people to call for a world run by technocrats, where only the intelligent, he said, should be making all the decisions. Sadly, it's very sad, his grandfather, who envisioned a world run by technocrats, well, he died when the plane he was piloting got caught in some power lines. So much for the infallible technocrats. Musk and his fellow plutocrats, all devotees, followers of the Dark Enlightenment, they are flying our entire planet into some power lines, just like Musk's grandfather. Or those power lines millions of them, will be floating in low Earth orbit, killing us by shooting microwaves down to the planet. This is the plan. SpaceX, it turns out, is very wicked. More wicked than Elon Musk lets on. It's sold as space exploration, right? Colonizing Mars or the moon. And I have no doubt some people there think it's part of the plan, but it's only a fraction of what their future growth will be. SpaceX's revenue growth is in artificial intelligence, robots replacing humans. Rockets are where the money is now, just like cars are where the money is now for Tesla. But the future for SpaceX is AI. Grok is Elon Musk's AI platform. They have a free version. You might want to check it out. I know a lot of people are afraid to look at AI. Well, and so they get bored with it because they don't see what it is. You got to see what AI is. Go check out Grok or check out any AI. See what a free version of AI can do. And then imagine what it will do if you pay it extra. SpaceX this year purchased Grok. Elon Musk's SpaceX purchased Elon Musk's Grok. As I said, robots selling to robots. SpaceX bought Grok because Musk sees AI, not space exploration, AI as the future. So, why? Fortunes are made identifying pain points and then relieving the pain. Again, artificial intelligence pain point is we're going to eliminate humans. That's a good thing. But AI has a bottomless need for energy and water to cool down these massive energy-intensive data centers that store and generate all that artificial intelligence. These data centers are a problem. They are a pain point, and they're only going to keep getting worse because nobody wants them in their city or their country because they're loud, ugly, and are not worth the energy required. Kind of like being friendly with Andy Cohen. These data centers are heating up the planet faster than humans can evolve. And Musk knows there's only one way to fuel these data centers as they grow exponentially. Solar power. But you still need water to cool the data centers down. So his plan. And when I told a couple of people about this, they said, "You're lying. It's never going to happen." And they Googled it and they went, "Oh my effing." Musk's plan, what this massive SpaceX IPO is all about, it's to raise enough cash to relocate the world's data centers into low Earth orbit. They call it LEO. It's an acronym for low Earth orbit. He's planning to house all the data centers in space. I'm not making this up. In January of this year, SpaceX filed an application with the FCC to launch 1 million satellites into low Earth orbit. 1 million satellites into low Earth orbit. And these satellites will serve as orbital data centers, shooting artificial intelligence down to planet Earth via microwaves. And I'm sure that these microwaves are perfectly safe, right? I'm sure these microwaves won't have any effect on the arrangement of our cells. So, why send the data centers into low Earth orbit? Because space is the perfect environment for data centers. Perfect. You have unlimited solar power. Sun is always there. And you don't need batteries for your solar power. And you don't have to waste fresh drinking water cooling these data centers down, because despite all that unlimited sunlight, space is incredibly cold. Bernie Taupin said, in fact, it's cold as hell. I called Bernie Taupin. I said, is space cold? He said, in fact, it's cold as hell. He said, it's no place to raise your kids. That's what Bernie Taupin told me. That's the plan. And it's happening whether you want it to happen or not. Maybe we can stop it. Okay. That's what's happening. So, what do? First off, learn about AI. That's the first thing. And vote for your Democratic candidate. We have elections today in South Carolina, and we have elections in Maine. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see if Graham Plattner survives till November. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, I like Graham Plattner. A lot of corporate Democrats are calling for him to quit. Somebody said something to me, and it scared me. If you read that New York Times article where they spoke to about 6 women, there was only one story that I found almost disqualifying, if not disqualifying. Somebody said to me, if that's what the New York Times is reporting, it could be the tip of the iceberg. And we're in for a nasty general election for Graham Plattner, who, Bernie still supports him, so I do. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. Thank you so much for listening to me. Please share this episode. Please like it. Please, that's the best way to make sure that you're always seeing this wherever you get your podcasts or videos. If you hit the like button, hit the notification bell, I'm told, and get all notifications for this show. A lot of you complain that you're not getting the notifications. There's a reason for that. I cannot stress this. One of the ways I'm fighting the throttling back of this show is to have a consistent schedule. I go live every Sunday, every Tuesday, and every Thursday at 6:05 p.m. Eastern. So you don't need a notification if you know that I'm live every Sunday and Tuesday and Thursday at 6:05 p.m. Eastern. Thank you to Bob and Mila in the chat room. I will see you Thursday at 6:05 p.m. Eastern live, because I go live every Sunday and Tuesday and Thursday at 6:05 p.m. Eastern. Leave a comment if I made any mistakes, or just leave a comment. Thank you. Short show today. Good. Very good.